everybody. How's it going? Got the mic on, I think. I hope. Let's see. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me shut this door. The man is trying to think, for heaven's sakes, in the other room. Let me just make sure people can hear me. Okay. Yes. Yeah, the gang's all here. This is great. It's I almost said it's Thursday. It's Tuesday. And have a little new vibe filter thing. What am I looking at here? A new light. I don't know. We're trying to just want every stream something new, some sort of progress forward. I'm feeling pretty good. So if you're new here, I do a little chat, just kind of warming myself up, allowing people to get here. Notifications are fickle. Sometimes people get them right when I hit that go live button. Other people, it takes a minute. Some people right now might be rushing home to get online and get to the show. We got to give them a minute. So, hey, it's Alala. Awesome. I'm so glad you're here. So I chat a little bit, tell you what's up, and then welcome everybody by name or by screen name. And if you're lurking, that's cool. You don't have to join the chat. We hope you do. Make yourself known. And then the show. Well, I do sort of an intro to the show, and then the content. I mean, it's all content, But we do a thing here, and this is Quilt Nerd Live, and the show is what it sounds like. You're looking at a Quilt Nerd, and if you're watching the show, you're watching it with other Quilt Nerds. And if you don't know what a Quilt Nerd is, you're gonna find out. Don't worry about it. Anyway, Padma's here. So, had a pretty good day. Why do I feel like I'm low? Am I low? Anyway, I'm not going to mess with it too much now. Okay, so I've been going to the gym. I had a long break, forced break because of COVID numbers. Just did not feel good going to the gym for a while. But, the gym is pretty empty in the middle of the day. So it's about a 10-minute bike ride. So I got on my bike and I was going to take a class because I really like taking these classes, because if you take a class, then, you don't have to try to figure out what to do at the gym, they'll tell you, they scream at you to do the stuff. And so I like to do the classes. Well, I got all the way to the gym and I was all ready and I went to lock up my bike and I didn't have my keys. I have no idea. I mean, I know what happened. But, I mean, you can't, obviously, in London or most places, you gotta lock up your bike. I mean, it's ridiculous. I had a bike stolen when I moved here, right? Eric, too. Anyway, not an option. So I just could not. I thought, oh, no, my keys, dropped out of my pocket or out of my bag on the way. Eric was nearby. We met up. We walked all the way back home to retrace my steps or my wheels. No keys. And the only other thing that it could have been was that I dropped them while I was unlocking my bike here at home. And, would they be there when we got there? And they were. My little keys had fallen out onto the ground right by, where I park my bike. So all's well that ends well, but I missed my class. And then, I know this is the most fascinating story you've ever heard, but like I said, we gotta let people get in here. I have to tell you where I am emotionally, psychically. Gotta warm up. So Eric was like, no, you gotta go back to that gym. You can do it. Don't let it get, so you wasted an hour, out of your day. You should go and just, do something. So I did. I went back to the gym. And I ran a little bit and I did some sit-ups and stretches. So I feel quite good physically. Thank you very much for listening to that. You're eating crisps. Well, so am I. I shouldn't do that. I mean, what if, I don't know, one day they're going to sponsor this show. And we'll do, we could do we eat crisps here, by the way, if you're new. I mean, it's just a thing. I'm in London, so I call them crisps. Sometimes I screw it up and I call them chips because I'm American and we call them chips in America. So I don't know what this is all about, but I don't know. I like chips and crisps. So we have them here, and it'd be a great sponsor, a crisp company, and we could get nerdy about crisps for like a 15-second spot. We could figure out the history of crisps and be like, quilt nerds we don't discriminate. We can be nerds about anything. So thanks, Cuddle Chips, for being our crisp of choice. And now we're going to tell you a nerdy fact about crisps. Something like that. It'll happen. So yes. Okay. That is my day, and I have crisp. Okay, yeah. So now let me welcome some people. I also had a Diet Coke. Blobfish. Hey, Blobfish. It's so good to see you again. I feel like there's people who are hanging out in the chat right now who haven't been here in a minute. But I know I hear from some of you. I don't hear from all of you. You never call, you never write. Just kidding. But I know that you're watching the replays, and I really appreciate it. Whether it's here on Twitch or on YouTube, catching the replay of the show, I hope it brings you hours of pleasure and nerdery. Myra's up in here. Carol Hempel, yes. Pam Priest, hello. Hello, Pam. M. Sue John, most excellent. I mean, you all know that you're most excellent. Sometimes I think, if I don't say something specifically, welcoming to everyone that's different, someone will feel bad. That's so not the case. But I just am so glad that you're here, Pam. Just so Viv, excellent. Viv, you have just finished reading my article in Quilt Folk. Interesting. That is excellent. Which article was it? Perhaps the Boise Peace Quilt Project. Interesting. Choo Choo Train. Little inside joke with Carol Hempel. Love that for you. That's an expression that I've started to use. It's very random, but this vlogger that I watch from time to time says, love that for you. Oh, Quilt Nerd's on. Love that for you. It's weirdly dismissive, but also sort of cute. Sibby Mack is here. Blobfish, your meeting was canceled, and you figured you would join. I mean, that's the only thing to do. Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central is the only thing to do. Star Sundance, hi! That's what I'm saying. The gang's all here. Quilting Nancy is here, and Myra is on the sly, being a nerd on the sly. Love that. Love that for you. Alistrina B, yes. Susan Michael, yes. Holmes, what's up, Holmes? Quilting Politics, Sue is here. Fiandor coming in with the music. Carol Hempel, Choo Choo. Yes, my name's Paul. It's between y'all, but I love it. Susan enjoys the slideshow, as do I. Joyous Fibers, hello. I know that you've been here before, but I don't know that you've chatted in a while. So I'm really glad you're here. Really glad. And welcome to the chat again. Welcome back. GPF Mom, we love you. We love our GPF Mom. A nun maker, Amy. You were catching up on Saturday's broadcast on YouTube. Yes, it is on YouTube. It was delayed. Faith is here. Dee Marie is here. Yes, everyone's here. M. Sue John and Amy 1E. Hey, Amy. Oh, wow. That is amazing, Blobfish. How did you do that? Well, I mean, you pressed keys or clicked something, but it's impressive. I like it. Stephanie Cake, lunchtime quilt nerding. Excellent. It's a lunchtime tradition. Ipsalala, I'm so glad you're here. Padma's here. Sibby Mac. Sponsored by Frito-Lay. I'm telling you, they got a lot of money, okay? Frito-Lay. What are they doing with all that money? Nothing good. Nothing as good as this. Viv and our people. Excellent. Okay, so... Yes. Ugh. I have had quite the nerd experience in the past couple days. And first let me say, now that we've welcomed people, I just want to tell people who haven't been here or who are coming back from a long absence what this is about. And every time I tell you what this show is about and why it exists, I'm reminded of why it should exist. And the deal is that I grew up in a family where quilting was very central. Quilts and quilting were very central to our lives. My mom was a single mom. She raised myself and my two sisters. I'm the middle daughter. And she made quilts, and she did not sell quilts. She made her living in the quilt business, but she didn't make quilts to sell. Some people do that. A lot of people used to do that. Not as many people do that anymore. Nerd alert, okay? It's not important right now, but that's true. She worked in the quilt industry, and there's a quilt industry, and it's like a $4 billion industry. And I just looked at the numbers. Sorry, nerd alert too. But I did. I looked at the numbers, damn it, from the last Quilting in America survey. And from what they say, the industry is robust, But anyway, online dating at one point, I remember I looked up how much online dating was worth as an industry annually, and it was $3 billion. So, quilting, $4 billion. Online dating, $3 billion. That gives you an idea, right? It's big. And so my mom, she made a TV show about quilting. She made a magazine about quilting with her business partner. And so, she raised up 3 children in the world of quilts. And so, and then I never thought, right, that I would be in the world of quilts. I was a writer and a performer in Chicago, making my living, performing and writing. But then I ended up on the show, okay? I ended up on the TV show. It's a longer story for another day. But at first it was just a gig. It's I was young, I needed the money, literally. But then it happened. I hate this phrase. It's overused. Oh God. But I caught the quilting bug. I just hate it. It's it's dead language. But I did. I fell in love with making quilts because making a quilt is really fun. And at the end of doing it, you have a quilt. So that's good. Puzzles are fun. Crosswords are great. But once they're finished, that's it, right? But when you make a quilt, you have this thing. And so I went along and I was doing quilts, and then I discovered that there was more to quilts than just, being blankets that are fun to make. And the more I learned, because I'm a nerd, in all kinds of different ways. I like to be curious about things, and I like to read and ask questions, and I like to I like philosophy, I like art, I like fashion, I like pop culture. Eric, my husband, and I were talking physics all the time. We're convinced time does not exist, only space. Talk about it later, maybe. So physics now is in the mix in our wonderful talks, and so I like it all. And what I learned when I started looking more deeply at quilts, the history of them, the art of them, the controversy about them, how much they should cost, what should be done with them when they're old, what they mean to people, the more I learned about them and asked questions about them, the more I saw that quilts they hold everything that I want to know about. I mean, economics, art, craft, history, philosophy, really. And I don't know about physics. I was thinking about that. I mean, yeah, they're physical things, and I'm working on it. I'm working on it. But I found out that I didn't have to go very far from this thing that I grew up with to actually go all the places that I want to go in my mind, and curiosity and in exploration of the world that I live in. And so this show is that happening live. So what I do is I show you a few of the things 3 times a week, just a few of the things that I have found while I'm researching quilts. And I research them because I write about them, and I research them because I give lectures on them, and I research them because I'm working on a documentary about them. And so I know a lot, but I have a lot more to learn. And usually I'm just like nerding out and reading things and clicking the internet to death. And it all stays with me, until I have the opportunity to share some of this stuff, this content that will blow your mind. It will blow your mind, really. So then I figured, like, well, why don't I do that live? Why don't I show people all the time in real time? I always have to hit my lamp. It's like a bell. Why don't I show people what I find together with them, with you? And so that's what this show is I just nerd out with you. And like today, I mean, we go from like medieval quilted horse armor, that happened recently, to, quilts made with paint, to, people cutting quilts up to wear jackets, make jackets and corsets from. And just everything in between. We see superstar quilters. We look at anonymous, quilts made by unidentified people. Just everything. Things you wouldn't expect. So far, we have gotten a few not totally non-quilt people who have started watching this show. I can't look away. I'm thinking of Chris Mess. Chris Mess was here last time. He or she, we don't know, is a tattoo artist. And they're just like, I don't know, I just found your show and I just find the historical aspect of all this fascinating. And I was like, you're a tattoo artist? Well, just hold on. I have so many quilts and fabrics and things to show you all that are entirely relevant and directly inspired by tattoo art. I mean, just give me a second. I wrote it down. I'm amassing my stuff for you all about that. And so there are people who have come to this show who stick around because it's just interesting. And if you're a quilt person, forget it. Talking about all this stuff with you all is way more fun than talking about it with myself. And you're sure to find things that you love and that inspire you. We're going to make a quilt together. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so that's kind of the show. Yes. Speaking of... Amy says, quilting is so much better than dating. True. And Holmes says, if you date right, if you do online dating right, you'll stop dating. But I'll never stop quilting. Ooh. Holmes is she's a, what's the word I want? You're a crack up. You're just a big crack up. You're not cracked up. You're just a crack up. It's my favorite word. It's all a crack up. Life is a crack up. And Holmes is a crack up too. Marianne had to wait 15 minutes for the bus. What did you miss, Marianne? Nothing. You're swimming in it. This is all the groundwork. We're still in the groundwork. So yeah, the tattoos stuff is going to be great. And if anybody has tips on tattoo stuff, put it in the Discord. And this is my first little bit of business today. I haven't put the show notes from Saturday in the Discord yet. I was like, ugh, I can't do it tonight. I'm so tired. I'll do it tomorrow. Completely forgot. Then I was in the Discord today and I realized I hadn't done it. I don't like that. I mean, maybe people will look at those notes, when they drop, and maybe never, or maybe someday in the future, you or I will be like, what was that show? What did we talk about? And you can search in the Discord, and those show notes will be very helpful, right, to find that stuff. So, Michelle Van Scrabby. Michelle is here. Hello. So anyway, sorry about that. So now I have to do that for Saturday and tonight. And believe me, I do not want to get behind on show notes. That's the kind of task that will strike fear in my heart and make me crawl into a corner and do everything but tackle the show notes that I'm 6 episodes deep on. I don't want to do that. So I will get it done. So I think, what else? The Discord, I will get a link to the Discord. Everyone is invited. Well, if you're nice and nerdy, you're invited to the Discord. I got kind of caught up today on some Discord messages. I won't be able to respond to everything, that goes in the Discord, but I just love the tips that you all put in the newswire, and the conversations are great. I'm lurking. I'm always lurking. So I'm going to put a link in the chat to the Discord. And if you don't know what Discord is, that's okay. By the way, most of us here weren't Twitch users before Quilt Nerd showed up. And so, you know, it's all new. I like Twitch. I don't like YouTube. I don't know. I just don't. I don't know. I wanted to be different. I had to be ornery. Okay, I have an invite for the Discord, and you must join us there. So Discord is it's like a meeting room. It's a place to chat and share photos of your projects and give tips for the show and just sort of hang out in the Quilt Nerd universe while the show isn't on, you know? So it's good stuff. I'll have to Discord. Yes, the Discord I speak of, indeed. Okay, so now we talk about the stuff that I have for you. And like I was saying, you'll see. I have just been in my head about a lot of stuff. Quilt Nerd related. I have been deep in the quilt nerdery yesterday and today. So I don't know. So this show, I don't know. I just don't know what's going to happen. I have a thing to read to you. We're going to look at Quilters, the musical. So that'll be really fun. And that's kind of simple. We'll get there. But otherwise, there's just a lot in my head that hopefully I can communicate to you and get your thoughts on as we go. Blobfish, your boyfriend has been trying to get you on Twitch for years, but you refused. And when you saw I was going to stream, you signed up that day. He was annoyed, but I've been loving it. I'm so glad. Listen, we can't do all the platforms, you know? Anyway. So, and by the way, this is the last thing, I promise. Actually, let me go to the picture that we're going to begin with, at least give you something else to look at. Legs! Let's look at legs. I start every show with a picture on my desktop of a quilt or a quilting bee, legs underneath a quilt. So we start that way, and then we get into the stuff. And what I'm trying to say is that we'll look at the Quilters musical, and then we'll just figure out what's going on. Okay. This picture is, I was going to say, this is the last thing. Sorry. We're usually here for hours, so whatever. The fun thing about Twitch is that if you subscribe, you don't have to watch ads, and you get to see your name pop up on the screen with this little star or this little dog. I forget which one it is, but I finally put alerts on here. So if you follow me or you subscribe, you're going to be a star for 10 seconds on the screen. It's great. But it would be wonderful to have you as a subscriber. It's a good thing. So $4.99 a month, your Amazon Prime subscription will get you one free Twitch subscription every month. So maybe you'll use it on this show. Nice! Miss Libsy made it. First time chat. You made it to a Twitch. Everyone, do welcome Miss Libsy. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to your first live show. There's energy tonight. Extra. There's always, but tonight. So here's what this picture is. Hey, Terry Meg. This picture is from the Hennepin County, so that's Minnesota, the Hennepin County Digital Archives. Okay. It is from 1940. Hey, Noesta Quilts. Yeah, there's a Quilters musical, indeed. You'll see. And this is 1940, a sewing bee in 1940. It's one of a number of pictures of a sewing bee, photographs that were taken that are now in the archives of the Hennepin County, Historical Society or something. I have a lot of photos that I've gotten over the past couple days. So it's it's a picture from this series of pictures, but when I was looking at them, obviously I was like, well, goodness me, who is climbing under? I've never seen a picture of a sewing bee like this, right? Have you? No. this is really, I mean, let's discuss, right? I mean, let's analyze what's going on here. I mean, well, I mean, it's kind of subversive. Maybe the photographer was wanting to get, so it's so fabulous, isn't it? It was wanting to get what it looks like from underneath the quilt, you know, like what are the hands doing underneath the quilt? You see the people, you know, quilting the quilt on the frame, and you see the top always, you know. So we appreciate deeply the creative direction that this photographer either got or, you know, what generated from that photographer's brain to look at this quilting bee from a different perspective. Brilliant, okay? Love it. It's not just directly, the camera is not directly pointed to the quilt. However, you know, we've got legs, you know. And I think it's great. It's just great. And indeed, great shoes. Great shoes. Look at those well, not really a T-strap. Anyway, fabulous. Love it. Chic indeed. Yes, Marianne, you beat me to it. What I was going to say also, Marianne knows, is that it was, I don't know how common, whatever, but it's a thing, right? It's a thing in history, perhaps even today, probably today. Kids could sit underneath the quilt that was on the frame and help, right? If the kids were small enough, they could poke the needle back up through the bottom of the quilt. They could sit under there like little trolls, little munchkins, and poke the needle back up for the person who was doing the quilting to have. Because, and I didn't think about this until the other day, actually, before I had seen this picture, but someone was asking me about a quilting bee and what took place there. Can I tell you? It was actually somebody from Los Angeles who contacted me because they're writing a script. And there's quilting in the script. And they watched a video and they were like, I should talk to this person because she can help me with this quilting thing in my script. And it's like a legit thing. I can't tell you anything more. And I've been helping this person so much because I'm like, I'm like consulting on a script about, you know. And so I think I'll get like a consulting credit or something like that on the show. It's like a big show. Anyway, so I was like, you know, talking to this person about quilting bees, and I realized, Marianne, maybe you can help me. It must have been in the very center, right? Because if you're quilting a quilt on a frame and it's very large, you can manage, these ladies are at the edge, right? And they can manage their own, you know, pulling up the needle from the back and stuff, because they, you know, they can feel it. But once you get to the very center of the quilt, it would be extremely helpful to have somebody underneath there poking your needle back up the center, right? This is what I'm thinking. I know, it's very cool. Eventually I can tell you what show it's going to be that I'm consulting on. Oh, okay, and I'll tell you this. There's animation, okay? And the coolest thing that happened is that this person said, well, I'm sure the animators are going to want to talk to you too. And I was like, ugh! Like, can I talk to animators? Like, in another life, you know, I am an animator. Like, I draw little funny cartoons that are animated, you know. Like, stop motion animation is my favorite thing ever. And so animators may need to talk to me. And that will make me feel like I did something with my life. Okay. Hey, Fossil Hannah. Fossil Hannah. Yes, quilt frames do seem nice. And I also quilt on the couch. And Caitlin. I saw Caitlin up in here. Caitlin, this photo reminds... Caitlin says, welcome, by the way, reminds me of being a little kid. Yes, when your mom... See, I didn't see that before I started talking about the thing. But when Caitlin was young... Caitlin would play underneath the quilt. I mean, that is pretty, it's heartwarming, you know? Quilts are more than just these heartwarming blankets, you know? They're a lot more than just sentimental things, but that is pretty heartwarming and rather sentimental, poignant, I would say, playing underneath a quilt while your mom is sewing on it or quilting on it. I love that. Yes, Padma, now we see what kids under the frame saw. Huh. Interesting. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. How many foot fetishes were born when they were children of quilt people? I mean, come on. So, upskirt. Susan Michael, you know the term upskirt, which is fabulous to me. It's just great. Because it's funny. And yeah, I mean, this is getting close to one of them. Let's see. Yes. 2 of them are left-handed, Padma says. That's interesting. Let's see. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it is true. Love that for them. I do. Quilt Authority, yes. Let's see. It's yes, okay, but yes, oh yes, I'm a consultant here. I think, don't consultants, you can get paid a lot to be a consultant, right? In certain industries. I mean, what does being a consultant mean? I'm not dissing any of you who are consultants. It sounds like an amazing job, actually. You can be like, this is what I think, and I have this experience to back it up, or this data to back it up, and this is what I would consult you to do. This is my favorite. I would love to do that for a living. Sorry. I have it's not, don't worry about it, nothing terrible, but I have a kind of a cough right now. I'm not going to be on The Simpsons yet. They would, okay, Marianne says those gals knew their photo was being taken and they posed their legs. Yeah, maybe. And they might be ambidextrous, it's true. So, okay, so that's our picture today. I just think it's fantastic, and yeah, it's real life, you know? It's so refreshing to see this angle of a quilting bee. Wow, pantyhose, man. Pantyhose and heels. Okay. So, oh, I have to pause. Oh yeah, that's true. Stephanie has been kicked in the head during her time under a quilt. And Fossil, I have to read this. I follow a pirate researcher because you're awesome. And she gets consulted for a lot of documentaries and movies. Her life seems so cool. Well, pass it on. I am available for consulting on movies. Hey, who's that? Grove, you, what is the star? Does it mean you subscribed? Or does it mean you followed? It was too quick on the screen. I should make it a little bit longer. You got to grab a cup of coffee. Susan, I will not say anything funny. I will say outrageous things. Okay, so let's talk about this. All right. So, okay. Let's do Quilters the musical first, because we've had a lot of talking, and the other thing that I have for you is less tidy than sharing with you about Quilters the musical. So, one thing that is true about this show is that I find a lot of stuff, and I squirrel it away into a list or a folder, and I look at things a little that I'm going to show you, so I have some sense of how to guide us along. But I mean, this isn't a lecture, it's not a presentation, I'm discovering along with you. So, there is a musical called Quilters, and it is, it's a whole thing. Whoop. I think I have everything perfect, and then, yeah. So here is, hide. Okay, this, okay, yeah. So I have never really investigated this play, this musical. I have never read it. I have never seen it. And I've never watched anything really. I mean, a few times maybe I dipped into a YouTube video or something, obviously because I was curious, but I've never really, experienced Quilters. And if you are watching this and, you have any doubt that quilts are more than just like blankets that grandmas make, ageist. If you doubt that there could possibly be more than like 5 shows on quilt culture and quilt history, the fact that moi, quilt nerd extraordinaire, right, has not yet seen a play called Quilters just shows you how vast this world is, right? And I mean, it's lame that I haven't seen this or investigated it, but there's so much other stuff to look at that I just haven't gotten to it yet. And so I thought it would be really way more fun to watch it with you, or to discover, what it's all about with you all in real time. I mean, hey, Judgy's here. Hey, Judgy. Nosda, you gotta charge your stuff. I never charge my stuff. Eric charges my stuff because I never remember. Young eyes, threading those needles. So I've got some stuff pulled up for you, but I have not watched. So we're gonna watch a little bit of a couple numbers that I found on YouTube. I need a crisp. Hang on. I've got photos like this. This is the original playbill from. Hold on. I'm going to read to you about the play. I'm going to read to you the history of the play. We're going to watch a couple of videos on YouTube, and we're going to learn what this thing is all about. This is the original Broadway playbill. It's on Broadway from 1984. But it debuted in 1982, I believe. We're going to find out. Okay. Before I go too far, has anyone seen this play? Has anyone been in it? Are there actresses out there? Hey, Quiltish. Welcome. Glad you're here. Has anyone, what do you know of this? What do you know of this thing? Quilters by Molly Newman and Barbara Damashek. Music and lyrics by Barbara Damashek. Based on, okay, I did not know this. I am looking at this right now with the rest of you. Based on The Quilters, Women and Domestic Art by Patricia Cooper and Norma Bradley Allen. I know what that book is. Hang on. This is a book. Interesting. No, that's not the cover I want to show you. Okay, well, I'll show you that book that this is based off of. It is a book that, like, if you have ever been to sometimes quilt guilds will have a book sale, and like everyone who has quilt books that they don't want anymore will bring them to the guild, and you can get them for a couple bucks here and there. This one often comes up, not because it isn't good, but because, I don't know, everybody just seems to have a zillion copies of it. That one. Do you have that one? It's a paperback, kind of an odd shape. I've got it back home in Chicago, and I'm sure that on archive.org this book will exist there. So this is, now we've learned something already. Quilters, the musical, was based on this book, or this book maybe inspired it. All right. Interesting. Domestic art. Using the word art. Always an interesting thing to notice. Okay. Well, let me make sure I see if anyone has been in this show. Stephanie Cake, this musical is performed a lot. This play gets produced. I have many pictures to show you of productions of this musical. Okay, it gets made. Quiltish, I'm so glad you're here. No, Marianne, it did not make it to the West End. I don't think. I mean, actually, I didn't look if there were London productions of this musical. Okay, I will look. Oh, Susan loves that Quilters book. Good. I need to look at it when I get home. Many books I will be reading when I get home for Christmas. So here's the deal. This is the Wikipedia entry for Quilters, the musical. Quilters is a musical with a book by Molly Newman and Barbara Damashek and lyrics and music by Barbara Damashek. These are just various productions that I'm showing you, okay? It is about the lives of American pioneer women based on the book The Quilters, Women and Domestic Art by Patricia Cooper and Norman Bradley Allen. We're like, we've known that. We've been knowing that. You know, quilt nerdery. Just so snobby, right? The show was originally developed and produced by the Denver Center Theater Company. Brockman Sewell, executive producer. It had a brief run on Broadway in 1984. Guess what I also have prepared for you? The New York Times review of the show. I know. I try to get it together for you people. Productions. Okay. The Denver Center Theater Company produced the world premiere of Quilters in 1982. The musical was produced at the Mark Taper Forum, Los Angeles. Interesting. It's kind of a big deal, right? In 1983. The Pittsburgh Public Theater in 1983. And for 7 weeks at the Kennedy Center, starting in August 84 through September 84. Okay. Damashek directed Quilters at the Edinburgh Festival, where it won a Fringe First Award, the Dublin Theatre Festival, the Pittsburgh Public Theater, and the Mark Taper Forum. Oh, that she was directing it and all those places. Hey, 7 weeks at the Kennedy Center. That's not bad. That's not bad. The Zoom Quilt Nerd musical. Marianne, I think that is a very exciting idea, and I would love for you to spearhead that project. Okay. So, Quilters opened on Broadway at the Jack Lawrence. This is not the Broadway production, by the way. This is just random pictures of productions. Just wanted to restate that. Quilters opened on Broadway at the Jack Lawrence Theater in 1984 and closed on October 14th after, 24 performances and 5 previews. Not a long run. It was directed by Damashek. Okay, scenic design by goes through the thing that, we love them. I'm not going to read all the names. Despite an unfavorable review from Frank Rich in the New York Times and a short run, the musical was nominated for 6 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. What? I mean, okay. The musical has been performed. I need to tell you, I'm not a huge fan of musicals. I'm not a huge fan. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I like opera. But, I mean, I don't know, man. The musical has been performed by numerous college and community theater groups across the United States, so it should absolutely be performed in your community theater. In 1986, the Frontier Follies in Jamestown, North Dakota, presented the first outdoor theater production of Quilters, with actress Mary Reinhardt performing the role of one of the multifaceted daughters. Okay, so a little bit more about productions, okay, but let's talk about the plot, okay? Plot summary. In the American West, a pioneer woman, Sarah, and 6 women, who are called her daughters, face frontier life. Oh, that's not a great picture, sorry. Rather than a straightforward storyline, the musical is presented as a series of short tales and tableaux, matched with musical numbers, each presenting an aspect of frontier life or womanhood. Okay. The patches or blocks show, the patches or blocks show, quote, girlhood, marriage, childbirth, spinsterhood, twisters, fire, illness, and death, unquote. The patches are ultimately put together to form one dramatic tableau. Interesting. Very interesting. I mean, I think you can tell. I mean, the stage direction, I mean, the set, the sort of sparse, this is very artful, this moment that we're seeing here with the hoops. Look at the lady with the hoops here. very Beckett. But I like it. And this is fantastic. This backdrop here, this enormous quilt. Like, where is that? You know, where is that currently? That's the biggest quilt I've ever seen. That's not like the AIDS quilt or, you know, one of those kinds of community projects. Now I have, of course, like I did not put, I really try to name all my files with all the information that I will need to find the thing later. But of course, this one is not done like that. But yeah, I mean, that's really cool. So a lot of the productions that you're seeing are pretty, you know, they look pretty cool. So I love this. I want to find where that quilt is now. It's great. Okay. I think this is another one from, oh yeah, Otterbein University. Otterbein University. Okay. What's a twister? Yeah, tornadoes. Yeah, Holmes is in her twister phase. God bless you. I don't think I ever left mine. And that is a sampler, indeed. The thing is, I absolutely think so, Padma. I see stuff like that, and I'm like, well, I'm going to find it. We have to find it. I mean, it's probably languishing in a prop storage closet, you know, in Colorado, you know, or it's been cut up to make into pants. Make a lot of pants out of that. So, okay, let's read a little bit more stuff here. So, the dramatist play. So this is the dramatist play service, which is where you get rights. You know, you write to them. They're like a clearinghouse, or not a clearinghouse. They're an agency, a business that deals with rights for plays. So that, like, if you have a theater company, if the Quilt Nerd theater company wants to produce Quilters, we'll probably contact the dramatist play service, and they will help us with the pay and the rights and all that stuff. So Quilters, via the dramatist play service, has an entry here about it. So here's what it says. The story, ostensibly the story of a pioneer woman and her 6 daughters. Ostensibly that? Okay. Oh, that's something else. Oh, Carolyn Maslumi. Okay. That's in the wrong place, but we're going to look at it eventually. Sorry. Okay, ostensibly the story of a pioneer woman and her 6 daughters, Quilters blends a series of interrelated scenes into a rich mosaic which captures the sweep and beauty, the terror and joy, the harsh challenge and abiding rewards of frontier life. That's a nice picture. Illuminating stories contained in various patches or blocks with music, dance, and drama, the action depicts the lot of women on the frontier. Girlhood, marriage, childbirth, spinsterhood, twisters, fire, illness, and death. But with this, there is also love, warmth, rich and lively humor, and the moving spectacle of simple human dignity and steadfastness into one glorious, brilliantly colorful quilt. The effect is both breathtaking and magical, and a theatrical masterstroke, which will linger in the mind and memory long after the house lights have dimmed. They want you to produce it. There's one little bit more here. Originally developed and produced at the Denver Center Theater Company, this joyous and moving celebration of American womanhood became a record-setting regional theater success before its presentations on Broadway and at the Edinburgh Festival. I think this is that's a flyer here you're saying. Combining music, dance movement, and scenes of vivid dramatic intensity, the play pays eloquent tribute. Flyer, okay. Eloquent tribute to the courage and spirit of our nation's pioneer woman. This picture is of the director of one of the productions. I liked that picture. Quote, "Who would have thought that quilters had so much joy and pain, laughter and tears, so much life, beauty, and drama in them," unquote. That was from a review from Dramalog publication. Who would have thought women have lives? It's crazy. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. An unqualified success, as bright as the colors used in the quilts themselves. I really like this poster. I think it's awesome. And the New York Post has said, Quilters is a show pieced together with love and stitched with pride, a thing of beauty, comfort, and joy. Unquote. And Newsweek said, a tender and moving theater work, a human patchwork rippling in the breeze of memory. Unquote. From Newsweek. Okay. Oh, Stephanie, it's okay. Well, happy Tuesday to you. Thank you for coming by. And I'm, work. I know. We got to do it too. Thanks for coming by. And hey, Grover346. Hey, you got the app to work so you can chat. That's awesome. Grover. I'm so glad you're here. It's her first time chatting. His first time chatting. Shouldn't assume genders and things, but I'm very glad you're here. Say hi to Grover if you want to welcome them into the chat. That would be lovely. And so here's the deal. Here's the deal about this show. I am gonna play a scene for you from there are a number of clips on YouTube, like a lot of clips of these different productions on YouTube. Some of them are better than others in terms of quality of recording, and different levels of production are represented. So I picked one that I think is good. I mean, I picked one that I think will work for us. I don't know. There's one thing that bothers me about this. It's that in a few of these pictures, I've seen some people of color cast, and that's great. But what's weird about this play, from what I can see, and we got to try to read a little bit of it. I got to pull up some of the script somewhere, just to kind of see a little bit more about it. And of course, I'm going to read it. I got to read it, and see the whole thing at some point. But like the frontier, and the pioneers, it's like any story. I'm sorry. Any story that's like supposed to be about life and, and like pain and glory and, this full life of these people. I mean, the indigenous people, this part of the story does not appear to be part of this musical. And it's like, it's cool if you want to tell a story. And look, I'm not canceling things. I have no interest in canceling things, but I'm just telling the truth, right? The truth of the situation of the pioneer quest was that it was there was a lot of moving parts there. And so when I see a play that's about like, the sort of the glory and the, manifest destiny kind of vibe of the pioneer West and all that, I just kind of go, okay, cool. Also this, also watching it with a critical eye means watching it in context of history and all of that. Doesn't mean it's not good. Doesn't mean it's not worth watching, worth our time. Just certainly worth analysis. And, I haven't written a musical that was nominated for a Tony Award, But especially with quilt making, I think there's this we slip into this, these tropes of like sentimentality and mothers and daughters. And, I've been thinking a lot about the Baltimore album quilts, y'all, a lot about them and why I don't like them. And it has to do with this kind of stuff, sort of this like American, sort of destiny and all the sort of the foundations of this nation, and it's just very white. The Baltimore album quilts they're just like that, and it's weird because it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of got blinders on. A lot of the stuff I've been reading about Baltimore album quilts is just very lofty and very praiseworthy of American ideals, and like they were made in the middle of the 19th century. Like 1840 was like a real strong year for Baltimore album quilts. And America in 1940, there were reasons why these ladies had all of this extra time on their hands to make these very intricate, very tiny, very fancy quilts, you know? I mean, it's just not, you know, it's not the whole story. And so anyway, sorry, I kind of got off the thing there, but yeah, Fossil Hannah. I mean, so many of these stories exclude the stories of marginalized people. I mean, 1,000% showcase the glory and adventures of white people without having to critique them. I agree. And I, you know, again, the rule here is to tell the truth. It's not to, you know, cancel stuff, call everything problematic that I, you know, don't like or that I think I should, you know, say something about. It's just the truth, right? That the quilts made it in the Baltimore area that were these fancy album quilts. I mean, Maryland was a slaveholding state, you know, in 1840. It was. And the folks who had time and money to make these white quilts, like snow white quilts, which what I mean by that is that they were, that's my last picture. It's not the whiteness thing. It's that they're so clean. I mean, these quilts are like pristine, you know, they have like no dirt on them, no grime on them. They're just like, you know, and then you get into the weird like Calvinist kind of thing, which is like the tinier your stitches, the closer you are to God. And I don't know, it's weird, man. You gotta be honest about this stuff. It's kind of simple, actually, because I get so afraid I'm gonna say something idiotic, and I will. And I'm ignorant about so many things, and I'm white and I'm privileged. It's like, I'm gonna say something awful, but I'm also just gonna try to keep it real, literally real, and say, you know, this thing bothers me because of this true fact, you know, that not this thing bothers me because I feel like it's just like, no, this bothers me because there's this fact that is ignored, you know, in whatever situation. So anyway, I am loquacious this evening, if you noticed. It's great. I love it. I love it here. It's my favorite thing to do. So here's let's watch a little bit of this. I'm going to eat some crisps. I'll turn off the mic and eat some crisps, partly because, like I said, I'm not a huge musical fan, and I don't want to throw shade to these folks who are doing this musical. I used to make theater. It's a lot of work. It's all good. But I don't like it. Okay. You're just doing so much work with it, Hi. Sorry, hang on. I'm going to try to turn it up, but it is, okay, now it'll be up all the way. Actually, hold on. Let me see if I can make it louder through this. One second. Okay. Hail ruins the crops or fire burns your house. You're just given so much to work with in a life. Is it louder? You've got to do the best you can with what you got. Materials is what you pass down to you. And it's all you can afford to buy. That's just what's keeping. Is that good? I'm gonna wait to hear if, like, how is that? I have no idea. Okay. Yeah, really good stuff. Hang on. Really good stuff in the chat. Yeah. Myra, rewatching Little House on the Prairie. Haven't seen it since you were a kid. There's so many quilts. I know. We got to look at Little House on the Prairie. Quilts everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Little House on the Prairie, Laura Ingalls Wilder. Like, I love Laura Ingalls Wilder. And she talked about, you know, Indians, right? But like, I haven't read the books in a long time. Like, what's that portrayal, you know? I mean, if she was scared of Indians, right, she probably had reason to be, you know, so that's on it. That's a fact, right? That she and her family would have been, you know, under threat at times, perhaps. So that's true. There's nothing problematic or anything about that. It's a fact. But how is that, you know, I don't know. A critical reading of On the Banks of Plum Creek, which I loved and read 90,000 times when I was a kid, would be interesting. And as long as we are aware we're flawed, we can always learn exactly. And the learning power in making a mistake, 1000%. I mean, if you really screw up, you'll hopefully never forget that, you know? And I have done that, believe me. Yvonne, we're all human and make mistakes. Indeed, it's when we say and do things with hatred that's wrong. Yeah, 1000%. 1000%. And people are disasters. Everyone is a disaster. And if you keep that in mind, you take things a lot less seriously. I mean, we're all a mess. What are you going to do about it? You know, just try to minimize the damage, you know. Yeah, and let me see if I can do captions. That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Okay, hang on. Settings. Playback. Normal. Okay, hang on. Quiltish says, Laura Ingalls Wilder, the story of her is very different than the novels. That doesn't surprise me. I think she's really interesting, a biography to read about. How do I know how to do this. How do I turn on captions? You know, not every video has captions available. That's maybe what's going on here, because sometimes they don't exist. But if you are seeing something I'm not, let me know. Yep. Now, Flinster, if this play is placed after 1869, the children of Native Americans were being moved to boarding schools. Yes, I just read something, I mean, just nightmarish about that, which seemed typical, right, of that time and experience. It's not clear when exactly this musical is placed in time exactly. Okay, so YouTube removed auto captioning? Really? Why? Really? That's crazy. Okay, sorry. I apologize. We were starting to watch this, but I wanted to see what I could do on audio. I don't know, y'all, but it's turned up as high as it can be, I think. Let me just see. And am I louder? I'm louder when I do this, right? I'm not going to do ASMR, Marianne, don't worry. But I'm louder when I do this, right? Because I think if I put this toward the computer, it'll be louder. We'll just try it. Okay.
Hail ruins the crops, or fire burns you out. You're just given so much to work with in a life. You gotta do the best you can with what you got. The materials is what's passed down to you. It's all you can afford to buy. That's just what's given to you, your fate. But what you do with it, that's your business. You can put it in any order you like. These things orderly. Common to all men. Okay, girls, let's go to it. Dandelion, my soul.
I hate that. Sorry.
Summer's love is
Thank you. I love you people so much. I hate it so much. Oh my God, I hate it so much. I hate it. I hate it. Okay. Now, if you like it, that's fine. And I mean it. I mean it. I don't know your life. It's cool. Maybe virginal church hymnal musicals are your jam. And I mean, I'm having fun with my fun. And I mean it now. Because if you are in this show, I mean, if you're here in with us and you feel like you catch crap, you know, because you like something I don't, or what, you know, that sucks. That sucks. Like I said, I made theater. Theater is hard. And these people rehearsed and did their thing, and they auditioned, and they're doing a play, and that's cool. If you're into it, it's cool. I hate it. And it seems that I mean, the people who have spoken up so far also hate it. Myra. Oh, wait. Quilters says her ears are bleeding. Myra can't even. Yeah. Oh, Carol Himple says maybe not buying a ticket. Quilt Tops by Ivana. I hate it. I hate it. Same. Yeah, Fossil Hannah is reminded of her Catholic childhood. Sue John loves watching my reaction. I mean, when I was playing this, because I had to pull up a couple clips that you could hear at all. You know, some of these are just recorded in a community theater space by somebody with a video camera, right? And the quality just isn't there orally. But I was like, literally, this was my thing. I was like, oh God! That was what I was doing. I was like, Eric, oh my God. This is like this is like the best. I'm going to play another little clip. Let's see. Put the links in the Discord for the fans. Yeah, totally. I totally will. And okay, so here's the other thing though. So Pam Priest doesn't like musicals either. When you go see a play, please don't sing to me. I mean, it's bad, real bad. Oh my God, you guys are great. Sippy Mac, it's bad, real bad. I know. It's just like, it's bad because what is your point? And I think the point is chastity and like this simulacrum of womanhood that is a lie. That, once again, it's like, tell the truth. Well, I think the truth is that a lot of women who were on the prairie, you know, were badasses, you know, and probably couldn't, I don't know, they couldn't always express, you know, what they wanted, right? And so this sort of like, is like, I don't know, it feels dishonest and it feels oppressive. Just all, oh, hey, we got those bee emotes, don't we? Don't we have look, remember? There's an emote that's a bee. It's Yo Mary Bee. If you're a subscriber, I think you have access to special emotes, and there's a bee for when we get mad, you know? We got a bee in our bonnet. Okay. Pam, okay, yeah. Sippy Mac, okay. Hey, Mothnator. Wait. Mothnator. I like your name. I feel like it's, Mother. Okay, I don't know. I'm going to call you Moth because it's really great. Welcome to the chat. I'm so glad you're here. And in 2018, Moth says Wilder lost the Caldecott Award due to stereotypical attitudes. It's very interesting. I mean, and that's a whole thing. We've, you know, it's a whole thing to, you know, what do you do when you've got a piece of work, you know, done at a time, when, you know, that whole thing, right? We're not going to even go there, but because it's just its own discussion, right? About that. I'm not prepared to have that whole discussion right now, but it's a very, very important discussion to have, right? Very nuanced discussion. If anyone could have it brilliantly, it would be us. Perhaps we shall. Yeah, the corniness, Holmes. I'm with you. The piano player isn't fond of it either. This is a great still. Look at the piano player. She's like, oh God. Oh God. Hey, Kevin. And Susan R. Michaels, thank you for saying you have to acclimate yourself to musicals. It's absolutely true. You know, if you watch enough, actually, the voice of Temperance, I don't know, Temperance, a tempering voice of Susan reminds me that I went and saw Oklahoma once, and it was great. I mean, it was at the Lyric Opera of Chicago or something, and it was just, I mean, it was like this folly, you know, I mean, it was just really, really exciting, you know, to see people like dancing and stuff, and Oklahoma, it was cool. I dug it. I went and saw it by myself. I remember that night very well. I enjoyed it. So yeah, totally. Kevin, we're watching, do not use your rotary cutter while you are watching a chaste musical. Word and bird nerd, have I taught you nothing? Now, Myra loves musicals, opera, theater, ballet, but this is not wonderful. However, I wasn't aware of its existence, so you're learning something at least. Thanks, Mary. It is my pleasure. Kevin, or anyone else who has just dropped in, this is a musical called Quilters. And it exists, and we're not sure how we feel. Well, no, we clearly know how we feel about it. What's going on? I want to get, okay. Eric? What? I think everybody hates it also, the musical. Don't worry, never mind. So, wait, I gotta get through the rest of these comments. Padma, I'm with you. Yeah, Into the Woods is cool. Into the Woods is way cool. Sondheim's very interesting. Oh, this is a very good question. In the nicest way possible, was this musical written by a man or a woman? It is a fair question, and it was written by a woman, 2 women, and a woman wrote the libretto. It's a little too Salt Lake City for your taste, Myra. I understand. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Love to all our Mormon folks, fully. Nicest people in the world, but also there is a certain amount of chasteness, right? That is important to that culture. I'm going to be very diplomatic. It's all good. Yeah. Mother Nature. Oh, Mother Nature. Okay. That's way better than Moth. Mother Nature. Thank you. You have a few beehives. You do? Yvonne has beehives? Are you serious? That is so cool. Okay. That is so cool. Yvonne has beehives, everybody. She does quilt tops. She does honey. This is the kind of people that hang out with us at Quilt Nerd. Timon and Pumbaa. I don't know that one. Listen, you know what? This is what the Discord's for. Tell us in episode discussion. If you love musicals, say it. Sing it. Sing it. Hairspray. Yeah, Hairspray is great. Oh man, I could put a number from this into the music, the opening music. Okay. Hair, yeah. Lion King. I haven't seen Lion King. Isn't that ridiculous? Wicked. I saw Wicked. It's like the cult of Wicked is like annoying. You know, it's like, have you seen Wicked? I'm like, yeah. Oh, I finally saw Hamilton. I was like, okay. I don't know. I didn't think it was that great. Here's another number from Quilters. It's 7 minutes. I don't think we're gonna watch it all, but this is called Never Grow Old. I have heard of a land on a faraway strand. It's a beautiful home of the soul, built by Jesus. Oh, of course. Where we never. Where's my wine? Just a little more. Never grow old, never grow old, in a land where we'll never grow old. Oh, you will. Nope, we're not doing any more of that. It sucks. I'm sorry. It totally sucks. I hate it so much. It's lame. Where is the beat? Where is the beat? Oh yeah, there's no beat, because beats make you want to dance. And if you dance, you're going to hell, right? Isn't that the way it works? I think that's the way it works. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Quilt Stitch, you're cracking me up tonight. Catchy. Oh, God. Yeah, 1982 eyes. It's true. It was 1982. Ivana, you have honey, fresh honey. Where do you live? I'm serious. Where are you? Where do you live? Took the TCM musical course. Judgy, you took the TCM musical course and you watched 21 musicals in a month and you loved all the stories behind the musicals. That is what I would also love. And actually, the behind stories of musicals and how they became, how they came to be and all. I love that stuff. And actually, you reminded me, of a lot of music that I really don't particularly like or listen to. If there's a documentary about that band or that singer, I am always down for it. Like the Bee Gees. Have you seen the Bee Gees documentary? I don't know if it was, I think it's Netflix or... Y'all, that is an amazing documentary. I loved it. And I'm not a Bee Gees person. I mean, whatever. I'm neutral on the Bee Gees. Disco, I'm cool with. But so I completely get what you're saying. And like the backstory, Sondheim's thing and like Andrew Lloyd Webber and all. I'm fascinated in the people and the work, right? Behind the thing. Maybe not the show. And, I'm officially like not being fair to anybody who likes it, but yeah, I mean the spirituals, I wanted to hear the spiritual, like the gospel, it just wasn't there for me. Don't use your rotary cutter. Yeah, okay, all right. We're gonna move on. It's okay. It's okay. Eric.
What do you think the Carter family grew up listening to?
Well, okay, now, Eric, just, no. You make a brilliant point, but that is not folk music. Okay, here's what Eric said. God, I love you. So he said, because he's not been privy to this whole conversation. This is very important. Eric loves, American folk music, right? And he just came in here and said, what do you think the Carter family was listening to? And I love that he said it. I love that he brought it up. I love the Carter family too. I love Johnny Cash. I love all of that. But there was rhythm in folk music. Folk music was totally, utterly influenced by black music, right? Blues and folk.
They didn't grow up listening to folk music. They grew up listening to hymns.
But Eric does point out that the Carter family and lots of folks did not grow up listening to blues music. They listened to hymns, which is fair. But then they rejected hymns and made cool shit. I'm sorry, but
Hank Williams too.
Hank Williams too.
All blues is gospel music.
All blues is gospel music. All blues is gospel music. He's right. God, I love that man. What?
Going for coffee.
He's going for a coffee. Yep. Milwaukee. Oh my God. Ivana's in Milwaukee County. Next time I'm in Chicago, let you know. Oh, I will be letting you know. Ivana, a lot of times when people are like, I'll send you this, or I'll be like, oh, no. I will be contacting you for honey. I would love to have some honey from your bees. I'll trade you. I'll think of something good. That would be amazing. Cool. So, quilting apology. We're gonna move on. But Quilting Sue says, I'm a big jazz and blues fan, and you agree with Eric. I mean, it's fair. It's a very good point. And K. Julie says you thought the Carter family was Jay-Z and Beyonce. Oh, God bless you. There's a line from the Carters to the Carters musically. It's all in there. I love this show. Okay. Gospel has great rhythm. It's the hymns. It's break bread together and we and that not even that hymnal stuff. I don't know, whatever. Okay. The organ music is what I'm taking issue with. The last thing I'm going to share with you about this play is I want to read the New York Times review, and then we will close the chapter. Here. It's such a great discussion. Sometimes if I get too worked up about something, it's like a danger zone, you know? And it's like, Mary, why don't you simmer down? Because you might be wrong, you know? Anyway. Okay, so this is the review. I'll just read you this little excerpt of it that's here on the left. This is from 1984, September 26th. Frank Rich, theater reviewer for the New York Times. Quote, Quilters, the first Broadway production of the new season. Oh, wow. It opened the whole season. Is billed as a musical, but it might better serve as a diorama at the Cooper Hewitt Museum. Thick burn. Adapted from a slender book of oral history by Patricia Cooper and Norma Bradley Allen, this show means to celebrate those hearty pioneer women who turned a domestic craft into a spirited native form of autobiographical art. The women who created Quilters, Molly Newman and Barbara Damashek, clearly know a lot about quilting and the unsung heroines who practiced it. If the entertainment at the Jack Lawrence Theater is any indication, their knowledge of theater is somewhat less acute. Ooh, burn! Apparently proceeding from the misguided conviction that what works on cloth can work on stage. The authors have given their libretto a patchwork structure. Oh, God. Ugh. Sorry, just... Quilters is a static melange of skits, monologues, and songs, unified by a theme, rather than a sustained plot or characters. The theme, the indomitability of American women, white women, is so superficially explored, he knows much more about it, that it never amounts to more than a tired slogan. Okay, well, I mean, that's fair. He's like... the colors that should enliven it, those provided by the cast, score, and dances, are generally as monochromatic as the beige backcloth that is the principal feature of Ursula Belden's set. Well, you know, I've gotten like a mediocre review. I mean, that's kind of a bad review, but I've gotten, you know, like a 3-star out of 5 on a show I was in, you know, and it's terrible to get that. It just feels like, you work so hard, you know. Caitlin, get some lunch. Forage. Yeah, we're having a good time tonight. Thanks for coming. And yeah, you can get down with some... Anyway, yeah, you're all very smart. And the thing is that just when, you know, I'm having fun with, you know, I hate it, blah, blah. You know, I'm sure Molly Newman and Barbara Damashek, you know, are out there, and it's like, you know, I don't think they're probably on Twitch, but like, what if they have like a Google alert for their name, and this is like this thing is tagged, you know, with their name, or Quilters the play, and then they watch, you know, this thing, and I'm like, I don't know. Everybody's a disaster and everything. It's terrible. Okay. So speaking of terrible, this next thing, thank you so much for the very illuminating discussion. And by the way, you know, to anyone who was like, hey, you know, hymns have this to offer, or, you know, musicals, like these particular musicals are great, or there's this dimension to musicals that's really fascinating. Thank you very much. Truly. Thank you very much for that. And let's see. So here's the deal. Here's this other thing. So I'm in the archive.org, right? Since we looked at that together the other day, you know, I can't get out of that thing. And if you weren't here, let me just pull up what I'm talking about. Oh, no. Nope. No, ladies, no. What I'm talking about, I love those legs. They look better all the time. is this. I'm talking about the Internet Archive. And if you haven't seen the show on Saturday, or was it last week? It was like Thursday. I don't remember now. But on a recent show, we talked about the Internet Archive, which is 25 years old now. And this thing is amazing. I mean, you just have to start playing around. The Wayback Machine cataloged all, search the history of over 624 billion web pages on the internet. That's right. You can search like, an old blog or an old something and find they take pictures. The Internet Archive takes a picture of every web page as it is uploaded. I don't know how they do it, whatever, but this creates the Internet Archive because there are pictures of, my Twitch channel page, so in 50 years, you'll be able to see that there was a Twitch show from Mary, it's amazing. But they also have a lot of books. And I've got a bunch of books to read and my favorites. And anyway, so I've been looking at a lot of different books here in the Internet Archive. And I also have been diving into something called, hang on, check this out, digital. I've been going deep into some real, intense search engines or I don't know, institutions, entities. This is the Digital Public Library of America. I didn't really know that was a thing until I looked at an old sheet of notes that I had. And there's a big thing in my notes that said, look into this, or look, images, look for images here and all that. So this is a portal to the legs picture. I found that via the DPLA because I was looking for quilts and things and doing different searches, and the Hennepin County Digital Archive, this took me there. Why? How would I find the Hennepin County, Minnesota digital? I mean, their historical pictures of quilts and sewing bees. I mean, I would never just go there, but the DPLA will take me there if I search for sewing bees, photographs, stuff like that. So it's just loads of fun if you're a nerd, and I know you are. So, hey, I love ZZ Top. Have you listened to ZZ Top? There's a great documentary about ZZ Top. They're fabulous. Love it. So this is really it's really something. And I believe it was in the Digital Public Library of America that I found this paper. And I have never read anything quite like it. And I am going to... Oh, you've been reading more Alice Walker. Excellent, Sibby Mac. Okay, here's what it is. And one of the things I'm trying to think of is what pictures I should pull up on the screen. I like to give you something. I mean, this is not fun. This is very boring to look at. The legs are better, but we've seen the legs. I would want to read this. It's not long. And it's so funny. It held Grover's comment, "You're such a nerd enabler," because it says you're such a nerd in it. Grover, you're approved, but it was held for potential bullying, that comment. We have fun with the mod bot. Hey, Christmas! No, yes. Oh, hey. Oh, Christmas. This is an excellent tip. The Forbes pigment collection at the Harvard Art Museum. Oh, well, yes, I mean, that's definitely something I'm interested in. And by the way, Christmas, I have a very big notebook. I mean, it's literally large. And tattoo quilts, it's right at the top. So you will get your tattoo quilt content. Oh, yes, you will. I'm just amassing certain things and finding other things for you. Thank you for the tip. And hey, Ferris Cat, first time chat. welcome Ferris Cat, everybody, and welcome to the Quilt Nerd Show. So here's what this is. This is a paper submitted by Robert B. Trotman, Department of Art, 1987. Okay, I got some images I can pull up that aren't related, but are sort of related. Anyway, I'll get there. So this is an art history research paper written by this Trotman fellow. And it's called An Argument Against the Current Methodology of Presenting and Educating About Quilts Made in North America. I'll read it again. An argument against the current methodology of presenting and educating about quilts made in North America. So how I read that was like, okay, this guy is going to argue against how quilts are being taught or something. I was intrigued, you know? And I read it and I was like, what? It is one of the strangest things I've ever read in my life. I have to read it to you. And you know, this, if you got to go away, you got to come back. If this does not have the visual splendor of my usual, you know, modules, forgive me, but I got to read this to you. I got to read it to you. Oh man. You really, Ferris Cat, you had to work super hard to get Twitch and to confirm to get in on this chat. I don't like that there was these barriers to entry. You've been following along on YouTube. I will look into this, like, hard to get into Twitch. Sometimes you have to, like, have a two-factor authentication or something, which can be kind of annoying, but it does protect you. But I think maybe if the settings are weird, I need to look at all my settings. But Ferris Cat, I'm really, really glad that you're here. Yes. It's quite the show. Christmas, you're going to be blown away. Word and Bird Nerd, put down your rotary cutter, and will you please make sure to put that link in the Discord, okay? With the episode. Okay. Yes, and Mother Nature had to provide your cell. Yeah, I mean, two-factor authentication is lame. Maybe we don't need it for the, I don't know. I want to protect you, you know? But maybe that's a barrier to people, you know, joining us. I don't know what to think. They had to have my email and phone number to let you in. Yeah, I know, Alistrina. That's what I'm thinking. There was a recent Twitch security breach, some weeks ago. You know, these things happen from time to time, and it's good to have that extra protection. You authenticated with email. Okay, let me just mull that over. I'll ask Eric, too, because sometimes he's like, that doesn't matter, or yes, have that. So, anyway, okay. Oh, it may have been because of the breach, Marie. Good. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you, and I'm going to pull up a few things here because we love a visual on Quilt Nerd. And as I read this to you, I just want you to appreciate maybe or listen for just what argument he's making. So, you know, there's no point in sort of telling you what he's going to say. You can just listen to it. And like I said, it's not terribly long, you know, it's probably a 10-minute read, I would say, a 10-minute read. So that's what you're in for, you know. I like to give you some idea so you don't, not just going on and on and on and you have no idea when it's going to stop. I will tell you about these images after we're done, but I have been looking at artists who are using quilts in their work, or people who are using quilt motifs in fine art. This is Murray DePiller's very, very fascinating guy. And I'm just going to scroll through these images so you have something to see. And it's also relevant to show you these quilt artists while this is the content reading. So I won't be able to look at the chat too much because I don't want this to happen, right? No, Ivana, I'm just going to read one of the weirdest things I've ever read. Okay, here we go. So this is, once again, An argument against the current methodology of presenting and educating about quilts made in North America by Robert Troutman, 1987. It is the purpose of this paper to present an argument against the current methodology of promoting and teaching an understanding of historic quilts made in North America. Just let it flow over you. As is the case with many other Americans, I too had grandmothers, great-grandmothers, and other family members who created quilts for use and show in their domestic and social environments. In part, it is from this personal history that my interest in quilts finds its power. More important and germane to writing here are both my own activities as an artist making blankets and the force of aesthetic beauty many quilts have impacted on me. Out of personal involvement with the quilt format, and from researching quilts for the past 2 years, I have concluded that the current methods for presenting and educating the public about quilts is a framework which substitutes a new set of perceptual understandings for quilts in place of accuracy and honesty toward the true character and nature of the quilt object. Quick pause. One of the things that was like happening to me is like, I agree with him on like a lot of things. And so I was like, okay, interesting. But then okay. Before describing my perceptions of the current methodology, it is important to comment on the feasibility of using quilts preserved or actually entombed in museums or the pages of a book. This is significant in providing validity to the idea that there is nothing which mandates a quilt be placed in a museum or book for appreciation and understanding. While placing quilts in museums and books may be an adequate vehicle for convincing the public that quilts can be art, these two systems, museums and books, seemingly applied arbitrarily to anything deemed even slightly worthwhile or significant, are not capable of providing the perceptual experience necessary to understanding the quilt object. It is my feeling that unless a quilt is beyond repair and has deteriorated past its use, it is as viable an object of utility today as when it was created. The utility of a quilt has not diminished with the passing of time. I thought this was really interesting and a very good point. The quilt is not an obsolete object, no longer fit for its intended purpose. People still sleep, and they still sleep on beds. The appropriateness of the quilt for this situation remains. Agreed. Currently, the two dominant systems responsible for the exhibition, storage, presentation, and general dissemination of education, and information on quilts are museums and books. It is my view that in both museums and books, the conditions of their presentations is contradictory to the true character of the quilt object, and these two systems effectively eliminate the possibility of any clear and complete understanding of the quilt as an object of utility. Okay, let me just pause. What he is saying, and he makes it clear, I know this is dense, and it's like, I told you, whatever. He's saying that quilts should not be in museums at all. Okay? I know. So I agree that quilts, like, they still work, right? A quilt made in 1850 still works. You can still sleep under it, as long as it's in one piece, right? But he's saying in this paper that quilts should not be put in museums at all, and that they should not be put into books. Like, they should not be photographed. He talks about they should not be photographed and put into a book. Because the materiality, the experience, the holiness, whatever, of the quilt is completely lost if you do that. I mean, maybe I shouldn't read this whole thing, but it's like, I don't know, see, now it just seems extreme. It's only 9 pages, but I don't know. It's just crazy. Let me see where I was writing my like, what? Like question mark. Okay, let me just hang on. Okay, the structure of the museum, with its unique physical plant, protection, alarm system, accompanying guards and other visitors, also affects a viewer's perception of a quilt. It's true. None of these aspects of the museum, forgiving the admiring viewer, are accurate to the environment for which a quilt was created and intended. Yes, it's true. I mean, yes, exactly. He's saying exactly. His point is that putting quilts in a museum doesn't prove their value. Their utility is the value. It's true. But what he says in this paper is that they should not, placing a quilt vertically behind glass or in a location or condition where it cannot be used is an affront to the true character of the quilt object. If a person cannot physically interact with a quilt, it becomes impossible to know what that quilt feels like. I mean, at every turn, I was like, well, yes. I mean, it's like, he's got these like really interesting points, but ultimately it's like, dude, what are we supposed to do? Never put a quilt in a museum? Never put a picture of a quilt in a book? So then I was getting like, who are you, dude? Like, what is your deal? What is your deal? Here's this thing about books. I know, Dee Marie. Like, what are you... And before discussing books specifically, a few comments on the information cards or plaques normally found with quilts in museums are needed. Okay? This provided information usually contains the quilt's pattern name, possibly the name of the maker, often unknown, the place of origin of the quilt, materials, and date, usually circa. Also on this card may be a short description of some type, specific to the quilt presented. All of this is good, however trivial it may appear. So then, like, there were things like that, and I was like, ooh, trivial. What is unfortunate is that little is ever said in depth about the lives of the makers. Again, I'm like, yeah, okay. Who were these people? What were they like? What was the source of their creative energies? What was occurring around the quilt makers and their families during a quilt's creation and use? Rarely, if ever, are these things described on the information card. Also, it's a small card, dude. If it is the purpose of the museum to educate, and use of these cards serves as part of the tools of that education, it seems more information could be provided. When it is not, another aspect of that quilt is unnecessarily missing. I did good. Oh, good. Crosley at home. Hey, Crosley's here. Indeed, he misses his grandmother. Okay. Books, while they are... Okay, so now we're on books and why quilts should not be in books. Books, while they are capable of providing a more in-depth detail on the aforementioned questions. Yes, books are very good at giving you more detail on things. Books are inherently once removed from the actual quilt object. Yes. Consequently, books begin with a disadvantage in their... if you're gonna argue like against books having content about something, you have a very difficult job. They're like, books about quilts, you're once removed from the quilts in a book. It's like, yeah, you are. That shouldn't stop you really from a book. Consequently, books begin with a disadvantage in their attempt to communicate accurately and completely concerning the character and nature of quilts. Well, try me, dude. Like, we can write intelligently about quilts, and it has been done. Perhaps if the physical nature of the book weren't as distinct from a quilt's physical qualities, the communication about quilts might occur with accuracy. As it is not, it is my feeling that a great deal of what a quilt is about is lost when placed in the pages of a book. Is he trolling? Like, at some point I was like, are you trolling? A quilt is a pliable kinetic object. I like that word kinetic. I don't use it enough with quilts. It can bring warmth and protection with an intimacy and physical directness unique to bed covers. A book cannot communicate the feelings and understanding that happens when a quilt is used. The substitution of words and photographs is incomplete, peripheral, and subsequently is, in my opinion, inaccurate. I mean, we're getting into some like intense, like Roland Barthes like semiotics at this point. Like it's like, whoa, oh. Another thing I was thinking of when I was reading this, I feel like he was high. Seriously, like really high one night. I'm thinking LSD, seriously, or shrooms, right? And I was like, he's high, and he was like, a book about quilts can't tell people what a quilt is like because it's a book. And it's like, if you're super high, I mean, a friend told me, like, if you're super high, like, I would completely be like, oh, books aren't the real thing, so how can a book be a thing about quilts? Like, it makes a lot of sense. I think also he was high and he was alone because if you had that thought with someone, you know, eventually I think, you know, if you're talking about this, like, oh man, books can't even like express what a quilt is, man, because they're a book and like a quilt is a quilt. Like eventually you'd probably you'd kind of get that out of your system. But if you're alone, you know, and you can like just be in that thought and you're like, quilts are quilts. They can only be that way. And if anything else is just like, it's unacceptable. I think this is a part of it. I mean, thank you. He was on a sofa wrapped in a quilt, wrapped in his grandmother's quilt, right? Missing his grandma. This is right, Marianne. How would knowledge be disseminated? I told you this is one of the weirdest things I've ever read. How would knowledge be disseminated to anyone, anywhere, unless you could hold or see the thing? I mean, museums have their issues, right? Accessibility, all that. Theft. But like, they are probably good. Because we have to look at things that I just can't like try to defend a museum and a book. And that's an interesting thing. Like, I don't know. Maybe I, you know, I'm in the Matrix or something. I don't know. Okay, let me read just a little more of this thing. I'm having fun tonight. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hang on. Okay. Okay. Hang on. I'm just trying to help us all here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Well, this is okay. So now this is at the end. This is page 8 out of 9. And he makes another interesting point. So I was whipsawed by confusion this whole time. Certainly creating new... So he says, so what's the alternative, right? He's like, so what are we going to do? Okay. So that quilts may be understood and fully appreciated, there exists possible solutions. Thank God, Bob. Because we need your help. And these solutions entail suggestions for change. Okay? The most direct, involved, and complete process of understanding a quilt has to derive from actually creating quilts and then using them. It's a great point. Although impractical for most, the process of creation, completion, and use of a quilt is certainly the most in-depth and accurate method toward their complete understanding. I have no problem with this. I think it's a fabulous point, okay? Advocating support of making quilts is not, to be sure, advice to begin copying quilts of the past. He doesn't know about, that's all anybody does ever with variations, but it is rather a promotion of taking the tradition, and continuing its evolution and development through creativity and invention. Certainly, creating new quilts out of their long tradition is something very few would be inclined to do. The understanding that comes with creation will remain limited to the makers of quilts. Nonetheless, the potential for a much greater understanding of the quilt object exists beyond the confines of a museum or in the pages of a book. If people cannot make their bed covers, they should at least be able to live with those presently out of use, or with those currently being created with quality, compassion, and respect for their tradition. By employing quilts physically, people could again become aware of the beauty, power, and magic that can only be understood through use. In use, day to day, a quilt is perceived through time. As it ages, it changes and becomes a part of a person's life. See, now I love him, right? In this way, a quilt can be slowly appreciated and understood. Quilts are objects created over a rather lengthy amount of time. In living with a quilt, the time spent with that quilt can align itself with the time spent on its creation. He was high, and he's onto something. In this part, I mean, it's some interesting stuff. Finally, by using a quilt, the quilt has the opportunity to be worn out, used up, and can die, completing its life cycle. The quilt, by being used, is allowed to manifest its organic nature and express fully its connection to life and death in a complete whole way. When the life and death of a quilt is denied. Last page. There is in that a strong comment on our own denial of life and death and the fear we have of mortality. Jesus. In this paper, I have presented my perceptions and criticisms of the current methodology used in promoting and educating on historic quilts made in North America. This has been done to provide an argument against these current methods, putting them in museums and books, period, and to allow for suggestions and solutions of change for a better, more complete understanding of quilts. Being placed in museums and books attests, I think, to the value this society places on the quilt object. Yes, having been given special status, quilts are placed in those structures designed and designated for special things. Unfortunately, with quilts, museums and books do not and cannot present the quilt object with complete accuracy and understanding, and as a result, the quilt becomes permanently altered and is artificially perceived. In conclusion, in the guise of preservation, in an attempt to prevent the death of the quilt, both museums and books have destroyed the only life ever given to a quilt, the life of use. Taken from their intended realm and taken out of use, a quilt dies. Being dead, a quilt has little to offer. It has no life. I told you. I mean, like, I'm going back into the chat. I saw it popping. It was popping. Oh, okay, there I am. Okay. I had an errant thought. Okay. Yes, he wants to pet them. Right, Little Bird Stitch. He needs to... Little Bird Stitch, have you been here? Were you here before? Earlier? Anyway. Hi. Okay. So Susan Michael says, so the viewer of quilt images in books or a gallery visit is somehow devoid of understanding what a quilt feels like. Yes, I'm just going to read all of this. Yeah, he was on a sofa when he was like having his whatever he was having that night, his little salad bar of whatever he was having. Tell that guy about Schrodinger's cat. Marianne, you're always elevating this chat. I mean, you know what I mean. It's good. We don't always know the provenance of quilts in our homes. Excellent point. God, you people are brilliant. Fossil Hannah, who talks to pirates. I mean, who is a fan of a pirate researcher. I will remind everyone, is a paleontologist. Fossil Hannah says there is a And there's a phenomenon within academia that people try to write their papers as hot take generators in order to get more views on their papers. Okay, in your opinion, Hannah, it's deeply hurting academia and the quality of research being put out. I had that thought too. And that's why I was like, is he trolling? Like, it's frankly ridiculous, right? I mean, I love some of what he's saying about, like, he's talking about the materiality of a quilt, okay? That a quilt is not a painting. Well, he's not saying that. But, like, when you put a quilt, a bed quilt that was made in, 1902, and you put it, or 1940, you put it up on the walls of a museum, you are sort of forcing that quilt to be a painting. You're saying, look, it's art, because it's as good as a painting. But a quilt wasn't made, that particular quilt, that traditional quilt or whatever, was not made for the wall. It was made to be used. And there have been many critics who have said, it's great people are putting quilts up on the walls of museums, but you're stripping them of their materiality. They're not paintings. They're quilts. And so if you treat them like paintings, you're actually losing this huge amount of like stuff, the what makes a quilt, right? And so, like, I'm glad it's as good as a painting. Thank you so much. But you're actually missing the point. So really, you could say quilts ought to be exhibited on beds in fine art museums, right? Something like that. So he's kind of saying, like, you put a quilt in a museum and, it's dead, So I get that. But his whole thing about how, like, they should never be in museums or books, to me, sounds like he's trying to, like, just be provocative for provocation's sake. I agree with you, and it's crap. Our brains are good at abstract thought. Maybe his isn't. Sue, indeed. And Sue sees this academia problem too. Okay, Julie, is Schrodinger's cat under the quilt or on the quilt? Oh, you people are so nerdy. I love it. False outrage bubbles quickly to the top, right? I love this room, same. Researchers pay thousands to publish their research and need to have lots of people see their work, right? So they say they make ridiculous claims, or they just, it's kind of a waste of time, isn't it? Clickbait. It would be interesting to see what this dude does. Okay. We'll get to that. Tell that to millions of quilt makers. I know. Hands-on is a great way to learn, but we can't all do that. Exactly. Marianne says, I'm not going to make a marble sculpture anytime soon, but you can admire one you see in a museum. Exactly. I mean, museums, again, access, programming. Like, I think museums have to really, really focus on who gets to go and who has access to those, of course, A lot of museums do a great job with it. Some museums don't do a good job with it. But, like, let's say they're doing a good job with school programs and free admission to folks who might not, be able to afford seeing, an exhibit or whatever. Let's say the outreach of a museum's really good and they're making their collections available to everyone. Let's just say that. If that's true, how the hell else are you going to see, the Matisse or, whatever. How are you going to see that in your life if not at a museum? That's what I'm trying to say. So, like, anyway, Reading Rainbow says books are cool. Thank you, Susan Michael. You people. LeVar Burton, obviously. Look, I had things to show you. Sorry. Okay, this person, man, these pots are the work of a guy who did quilts too. Sorry, I just wanted to throw something up there, but then I completely forgot to show you things. We'll talk about all of these pictures at some point. I've been collecting a lot of pictures lately. This is very fun. It is very fun. Quilter says, it's like you can only study function but not form of the quilt. That's so good. That is so good. It's true. He's completely missing the form part. And that's where it feels a little chauvinist or weird to me. It's like, you said it. You put your finger on on it. You articulated it exactly. But one of the things I was feeling was like, well, so our quilts can never be in a museum because they're only domestic objects. Like, there's just shade in there. It's a big problem in there. It's male interpretation, exactly. Myra says, I want to use my quilt. I want it to live through us, with us. I don't want to kill it. Save the quilt. Who's murdering quilt? Stop it. Stop it. But wasn't it interesting? I did think it was interesting how he's like, to know a quilt is to live with it and like use it until it dies. And it was like, well, that is pretty cool. And he said something like the time it takes to make it is sort of only, I'm paraphrasing, is only sort of honored or only sort of, paid back in a way, if it's used for a long time too. This is interesting. So weird. Yeah. Quilts can't be beautiful unless they're on his bed. Yeah. What would have happened, Pam Priest said, to the Bronte sisters quilt if it wasn't in a museum? We have taken such joy in this quilt and replicating the medallion. Indeed. Indeed. I mean, come on. An opinion without substance. Super weird. Yep. Wall quilts must really confuse him. Someone needs to get high and read that article. Carol says. Research. We need to know if that would alter our perception of this bonehead. You know what? I'll take one for the team. I'll let you know. I'll let you know. Maybe over the Christmas holiday I'll figure something out. Everyday use. Alice Walker. He's trolling. Before the internet. Hey, Research Diva. Research Diva. It's been a hell of a ride tonight. I'm just saying, you gotta... I'm so glad you're here. I just can't... The author's assuming much. Indeed. Ferris cat, Native American grass bowls were made to be used as well. Correct, but I sure appreciate the ones they've preserved in museums for me to see and appreciate the talent of the ancient Native Americans. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, well, what do you do with like an ancient pot, right? It's like, no, pot is meant to be used, but should we not put any pots in a museum? And he made that point earlier. He was like, well, a quilt isn't supposed to be in a museum where guards are walking around and alarms are on. No, they're not. No one ever said. That's weird. Wings of furniture in museums. Yeah, waste of space. You're all exactly right. Hang the quilts on the wall in a museum with a little placard that says, pretend this is on the bed. Oh my god. Kevin, the basis of his argument can be applied to almost any crafted item. Thank you. Pottery, wooden vessels, baskets, exactly. Okay, I'm almost caught up. Oh, you people are ridiculous. Okay, cars. Okay, exactly. Sashiko, indeed, you can't describe. You must. Well, yeah. Okay, wait. Now, yes, I see what you mean, Kevin, and I see what he meant too. The Japanese Sashiko artist we watched on another episode said you can't just describe a thing. You must experience a thing to truly understand it. And and he mentioned it too. Making a quilt is really the sort of best way to understand a thing. And this makes sense, right? And I mentioned Robert Cargo, this collector who he collected quilts from in the South predominantly, and he learned how to make quilts at a certain point. He's like, hey, I collect them, I love them, I better make one so I can really understand the thing. And I always thought that was super legit. Yep. Oh god, I love it. We can look at an image. We can look at an image of a quilt on a computer screen and have a 2-hour discussion about it. Proves them wrong. Yes, it does. By the way, these wonderful quilts you're looking at are Huckabee. Cedric, who sent it to me? Sorry, hang on. This guy, Cedric Huckabee. Amazing artist. We're gonna look at his work one day soon. Feel ridiculous. Yeah, and okay, nose to quilts. I'm interested, Mary, would you have had the same reaction to the Garfield and Arthur quilt if it was on a bed or hung vertically? Do you think you had the reaction you did? That quilt that I saw in person at the Art Institute, I had seen it in pictures, right? And then I saw the real thing. This is what Nose to Quilts is talking about. And I like burst into tears. I was like, oh, it's that quilt that I've seen in all these books for so long. And then I saw the real thing and I was like, ah, okay. So you said, would you have had the same reaction to that quilt if it was on a bed or hung vertically? Do you think you had the reaction you did because you could appreciate it as a 3D tactile object and not a 2D one from a book? Yeah. Yep. That's really, it's very good because like I saw this quilt in books for years, this particular Garfield and Arthur quilt. And then I was in a class in grad school and completely not knowing that it was going to happen. We were in the textile, the bowels of the textile department in the Art Institute of Chicago when we like turned a corner and the quilt, the Garfield and Arthur quilt, was on a table being prepared for an exhibit. And I saw it and I was like, ah! Like it was like someone shocked me, or like I just like curled up like a little shrimp, like like I can't believe this. I was so excited. And I like cried, and my classmates were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "It's just like," and it was very intense because it was like a person. It was real. It was not a facsimile, and it was completely different to me. It was just kind of weird. I mean, it was kind of weird. It was like meeting a celebrity or seeing a mouse. I mean, it was like, oh my God. And so like so it was a completely different experience. Totally. And that's fair. I mean, that is true. I loved the quilt before. I mean, I was fascinated by the quilt in all of those photographs and never expected to see it. And then I saw it, and and that's like any art too. I remember seeing the Pietà, Michelangelo's pictures of that in books, and then I saw the real thing, and it was like spooky. It was almost a spooky experience. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Anyway, no, these are paintings. So who did tell me about Cedric? Yes. I saw Word and Bird Nerd say we could have family members read parts of this paper out loud at Thanksgiving. It's a fine idea. Yes, Cedric Huckabee. These are paintings, and they're just wonderful. Okay, well, so the author. So I looked up. I don't know, but I looked up that guy. I looked up Robert B. Tottenham. And the only Trotman. There was only one hit that came up, and it was like a I'll just say it was a police record. It was not good. It was the only Robert B. Trotman I could find. It's not good. So I don't know if that's him. I hope it's not. But I'm decent at Google. I'll put the link to this paper in the Discord, and if anybody can find him, I would love to find this guy if it's not the guy that I found. This is an amazing painting. This person is awesome. So we will look at his work soon. Cedric is in Tulsa, Oklahoma right now. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Oh, with this one is by Marie de Pillars. I saw this today and I was like, this actually I entered the rabbit hole through this picture. I was like, who is this? What is happening? And it's called From the Mississippi Delta, and it's at the Virginia Museum of Fine Art. Anyway, this is Marie de Pillars. Marie de Pillars. Okay, well, just these pretty things will take us away. Anyway, so thank you all so much. I mean, that's just, yeah, paint a quilt. How great would that be? Some people make quilts out of wood, like wood blocks. I know we've been through a lot together tonight, people. I think is that the last picture? Yes, that's the last picture. So I think that's it for tonight. I mean, it better be. What did we do? We looked at legs. I had a bit of a cough. It's fine. It's just like a postnasal dripping. I don't know. Maybe I'm allergic to something here. We looked at legs. It was kind of a racy night, you know? We were kind of like, we were talking about foot fetishes and we were talking about drugs. I shouldn't, if I say that, you know, now that I've said that, YouTube, well, I don't know. Anyway. We looked at legs. We looked at a musical. Once again, Quilt Nerd. You never know where it's going to go. And my favorite thing is to have very dynamic content, right? Dynamic. When I was editor, Quilt Folk, you know, it was like dynamism, you know, not the same story over and over again about this, you know, person or that person, like just really, really dynamic content. On one page, you'd read about a musical, and on the next page, you know, you'd read about this. And that's really fun to me, to be like, what? And the power of quilts is just amazing. There's just so much out there, and it is dynamic, and it's crazy, from musicals to methodology and all that stuff. And it's just, I'm just here for it with y'all. It's so funny. Oh, I laughed. The things that you said. Hey, Holmes subscribed with Prime. Thank you so much for subscribing for 2 months, Holmes. I really appreciate it. That's awesome. It's been a great conversation. I agree, Quiltish. Really, really good stuff. So I'm just energized. I'm just energized. It's the gym and it's you and it's all this stuff. So I'm going to get the Discord put up right now and get the show notes from last time too. But thank you all so much. Thank you for being here, and tell a friend about the show if you like the show. You know, it's not for everybody, I guess, but it's probably for people that you know. And I think that's it. We're definitely sewing on Sunday. I mean, I'm going to live stream on Sunday, and so I've got to get my COVID quilt done before the end of the year. I will not take that quilt into 2022. It has to be done. So, sewing on Sunday if you want to. 10 a.m. Central. But it'll be on the calendar, or on the schedule. Great company. That is a good way to put it. Great company. Yes, what is the set schedule? The set schedule is Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Central. We're live. And Saturdays at 4 p.m. Central. Okay? Those 3 shows, they happen. Period. And then Sunday is kind of like, sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't, just kind of depending. I don't want to lock myself down on a Sunday sometimes, because it's like there's so much you got to do with the life and the stuff. But this Sunday at 10 a.m., if you want to just get your projects, I'm going to sew, and I'll turn on the camera and we can sew together. It's Sunday social. It's not a nerd show. But yeah, that's it. And the Discord by Viv. And yeah, the Discord is up. It's going. Join us. I'll put another link to it right now, and then I will sign off and eat my crisps. I picked a bad time to, take a break from wine. I don't know. I mean, there are no rules. Do I have to not have a glass of red wine now? I don't know. Hold on. I'm just letting Discord load. I'm not trying to keep you all. If you have to bail, what if everyone left right this second? I would feel sad. Just hang on 1 second. If you click on this link, you are invited to the Discord, and you can join us over there, and we would love to have you. And that's the scoop. Hey, your dad's turning 100. That's so cool. Enjoy Word and Bird Nerd. That's really awesome. Well, we'll catch it on the replay, and we'll see you soon. Okay, everybody, take care. Be good, not too good, and I'll see you Thursday.